Good morning, everyone. So today, before I squirrel away working on videos for the patch coming out later, I wanted to take you guys through this world map of Tyria and keep you up to date with stuff that's been going on in the community revolving around it. I must be honest, I gotta confess straight away, since the video I put out, I haven't put an ounce of effort into actually translating this thing for myself. Everything I'm going to talk about, the findings that have been discovered on this map, have purely come from other people in the community, and I guess just my elaborations and speculations based on that. If you're a little bit out of the loop, what the hell are we looking at? Last patch in one of the instances was a texture upon which you could see a whole map of Tyria. It was actually another version of this map that you can see here, which was a texture plastered on a globe in the game's launch. You can find on the giant spinning globe in the Chantry of Secrets. It's been touched up and changed a little bit. Down here, for example, Cantha is significantly more battered. Certain detail and quality on sort of the terrain, so for example around here, looks rather different on the new version of the map. But most excitingly, it was filled with labels that with enough scrutiny, we as a community could try to translate. I did sort of a preemptive, hey, here's an early look at what I've managed to glean from the map before, and I promised you guys an update. This is it. I would consider the map 95% done, with maybe a 10% margin for error on the things that have been found for it, and I think mostly we're quite on the ball. So I know the logical way to do this video would be to start at the top and work down and talk to you guys about the translations, right? Well, we're not going to do it that way. Instead, I have a random jumble of notes on my other monitor here, and we're just going to go through them in this way. So we'll start off with this island up here on the top left of the world map. Previously, I hadn't translated this because a lot of the text that appeared on the new texture was very difficult to read for the filter I was using, anything over the sea. So it's very difficult to read this stuff, but people have managed to translate, and it definitely looks like this island to the top left is called Dawn. Now, what you're seeing here on this map, the landmass is a little bit tricky to make out, but we're generally talking about this island over here on the top left. For what it's worth, so many of these names that we're getting here have never really been referenced before. There is a vague notion out there that there is some other civilization of humans that use very Spanish names, I'll talk about soon. It is theorized to be the same place that the cancelled 4th campaign Utopia was said to be set in, which itself is theorized, only theorized, to have taken place somewhere to the west of Tyria, which would leave potentially this place, potentially this place, potentially this island up here called Dawn. We really don't know though. All I do know is that Dawn's kind of a cool sounding place for an area in a fantasy world, though it's a very common trope. If you follow any world building forums, any map making forums, anything like that, you'll see most people in their fantasy worlds call some place somewhere on their world Dawn, and it's because it sounds pretty badass, right? But we've got Dawn up here. Of course, we've got the unending ocean, which was translated before. One thing I neglected to mention as well was that, don't forget, this is kind of like a globe texture. Imagine as we move across on the left here, we actually appear on the right too. So that means all of this is unending ocean. Basically, the entire map is unending ocean. We have one ocean on this world, and hey, it is unending. So I guess that makes sense. Up here, very little has changed from my previous video. We have either Furious Stretch, which is most representative as a translation of what it looks like. So it looks most like Furious Stretch, but I think it makes most sense as Curious Trench. This is still just my own speculation. It's not really taken on. Most people are happy to call this the Furious Stretch. I just think that the naming of that doesn't really work very well. But whatever, that's what we're calling it. As for the texture itself, we can't really glean any kind of trench up here, except this vague notion that there's some kind of a river here, maybe? Who knows? The rest of the lore, we have heard that the Kodan came from the north. If you think of this as Kryta, these are the far Shiver Peaks, these are the northern waters. This could be the Kodan homeland right here. This could be it. This could be a place currently ravaged by Jormag. And indeed, if this place is being ravaged by Jormag, you can think about the movements of the Elder Dragons, right? So far, they seem to only be hovering around this little area here. And many people are asking the very smart question of, why are the Elder Dragons only hanging around here? Why don't they terrorize places further away? Maybe Jormag is terrorizing this place all the way over here. We'll have some evidence maybe that the Deep Sea Dragon has been terrorizing several other places very far away from here too. But we'll get to that when we get to it. Since I've talked myself onto the topic here, let's have a look at this idea of the Elder Dragons only being around Tyria instead of the whole world. It's something a lot of people have noticed. Why are they only here? And there is substantial evidence for good reason for them to only be here. You guys might remember right at the end of the personal story, they do reveal to us that the first place the gods stepped on Tyria when they came to this world was in awe, and they stepped there because of its magical significance. The personal story, not the dungeon section of the personal story, but concludes with Traherne cleansing ore, supposedly, and he does this from the artesian waters, a great well. It's basically almost like a ley line hub, I suppose, that he manages to cure Zaitan's infection, and this then spreads throughout ore, and the gods recognize the significance here. So you can say this is the whole world of Tyria, and the gods came here, and they decided that they were going to come here because this is where magic was at its strongest, where it all seemed to coalesce, and maybe that's why the Elder Dragons are around here as well. This is just an area of high magic activity. Of course, this is all just speculation, but if you really think about it, all the events of the Elder Dragons and their reaches can be fit in sort of this very nice box here, around ore, with ore at the center. And, you know, you've even got this nice, lovely section here for the deep sea dragon to hang around in. There have been further theories, too, that this is why there are so many intelligent races around in this area of Tyria. But, you know, I think this is kind of a narrow way of looking at the world, and personally, I think it would be much more interesting if this specific area of Tyria wasn't actually that impressive and wasn't that amazing, but was really just a small fish in, you know, the larger world. That makes everything seem a bit more exciting to me, but they have kind of set up the story. Along these lines as well of, you know, the gods came to Tyria and they first set foot here, is a weird contradiction in this story and the story of the humans settling on Tyria. On the one hand, we hear that the gods started here in Ore. On the other hand, we hear that the gods also brought humans to Tyria. But we hear that humans migrated north from much further south a long time ago. So if the gods brought humans to Tyria and ultimately started living with humans in Arar and in Ore and were happy about this, why would the gods come to Tyria and then later bring humans and decide to dump them all the way down here somewhere south in Cantha? It doesn't really make much sense. My personal take on that story is maybe the gods did bring humans to Tyria. Maybe they didn't at all, of course. But maybe when they brought humans to Tyria, there were already different humans hanging around that maybe the gods were aware of and they simply didn't care. Maybe they didn't know about at all. Don't forget, when it comes to the lore of the humans living on this very far southern continent, we hear about ritualists using a special branch of magic that seems unlike anything else, right? Perhaps completely separate from the ley lines and the currents and the elder dragons and so forth. And maybe humans had become masters of that, completely free of the gods' influences. And again, so when we're looking at this map, when we're looking at islands really far to the south, you got to consider, yeah, we've got no labels for this island, this island, this island, or this island, but you look at the Cantha lore and you hear that humans didn't start just randomly up in the cities necessarily. They didn't start in the Jade Sea or the Echovald Forest. They may have even come from even further south and migrated north. So these islands here, these could be the original homelands. Can you imagine how amazing this map would have been if it just had 2 lines of text here and they just simply said original homelands? How amazing would that be? But so you've got to kind of think of this. We have no labels, but these areas do have some ties. Okay, so let's go back to the labels before I go off on a massive tangent. I do have an alternate map here as well, by the way. This was very kindly given to me by that shaman who's working on this. He had an alternate version of this a long time ago, where basically he's combined landmarks from Guild Wars 1, Guild Wars 2, and all these new areas now from this map also in a really nice, stylish, high-resolution version. I'm sure he'll be releasing it at some point. My little one here has some more new labels than he's got added here, but you can see you've got many locations here, and the new ones, such as the supposed Olympus or whatever. Pretty cool. So let's keep going. Over here, we've got the Icy Tundra. No one's really disputed this. Pretty sure it's a solid translation. I'm pretty happy with it. This water here was not something I had translated before. Again, let's go to that shaman's version of the map, shall we? So we're talking about up here. And what I think most people are getting from this is the frozen gully. But also that could be frozen gullet. Now I want to add every now and then when there's perhaps another option, just so you guys can see what it maybe would be. I've also heard people calling it the frozen gullet. You know, it's kind of this inlay of the sea here, so I think either description is fairly apt. I guess it's up for you guys to decide on that one. Moving over, we have a very difficult to translate bit of text. You guys can barely probably even read it right now. Over the water here, and this is the last thing people haven't really been able to translate at all, as far as I'm aware. I haven't seen any speculation about it. I can't do much better. People suggest that fjord is a great word, and it would make sense given the geography. However, Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to line up at all, so people are a bit out of clues here. We're talking about this little area here, the Icy Fjords, somewhere cold, we don't really know. Could this be the Gw2 homeland? Could all of these, you know, labels here, this density of labels have something to do with it? I guess we're not sure. Now remember, this could be the Gw2 homeland. I know that they sailed on their sanctuaries here, but remember, if you move over on the right, you come off on the left, and it's really not such a stretch to imagine. Let's move on to what I labeled Foundry before. I told you guys that Foundry didn't quite fit because it looked like there could have been an A there. A lot of people, and I came up with this myself but immediately dismissed it before, have come up with this word here, misandry. And people have been treating the notion of this being the correct word as a bit of a joke, you know, oh, it looks like it could be that, but surely it's not. Surely this would be too disrespectful for ArenaNet to have put in the game. For those who don't know, misandry is basically the term for sexism towards men. You know, it's a word to describe the act of hating men. And so people have been saying, you know, this is a very loaded term. It probably shouldn't be on the map or whatever, or they just dismiss it straight away. I actually think it makes a lot of sense. Don't forget, a lot of these descriptions for new areas are not actual names of nations or cities or anything like that. They are approximations and descriptors. And to describe an area as being rife with misandry, I think actually makes a lot of sense and sets up a kind of a compelling idea of the people that live there. This is a region of the world that is rife with man-hating. And I think that's an interesting idea. Maybe it's a kind of topic that we will never see in Guild Wars 2, but it's a fairly mature topic and a topic in a region I'd like to sort of see the story go into, you know, tackling serious issues. I'd kind of like it. So, you know, maybe misandry does work. Maybe it is this weird botched form of Foundry. I guess it's up for you guys to decide. I don't know with many of these how much more accurate we can possibly get. There's always going to be a measure of speculation. And that's kind of one of the things I've enjoyed about the way ArenaNet have revealed this map to us. You know, it is an interesting idea that this is them finally revealing to us what their world is like. You know, they're committing to things now. And, you know, they could have done it in a flashier way, a less obscure way. But this at least keeps us speculating for a long time until ultimately they do their next big reveal that is another really cool map of some kind. Alright, moving on. We've got Not Real. Nobody really disputes this. I have heard some speculation that people say you shouldn't take any of these labels seriously. None of this is worth anything, guys. It's stupid to talk about it or, you know, go too hardcore on it. Clearly, they don't want us to look that hard at it, and ultimately, all of it is not real. This is like a message from a dev who was doing these to say, don't take this seriously. I'm, of course, going to go the fanboy idea that this is some mythical land that, for whatever reason, has the association that it's not even real, that it doesn't even exist somehow. That, you know, it's the map maker in universe accepting, you know, these are such rough approximations of the far reaches of Tyria. We don't even know if this is real. I'll tell you guys one thing, if you've got some time for spare reading one day, look at old maps of the world when cartography was like a huge big deal, and look at the things people used to think existed. Whole continents existing between like Europe and the States. It's crazy the amount of stuff people used to believe existed, and to see some of that seep into Guild Wars 2, I would love to see. It's such a magical idea and such a wonderful notion filled with imagination that keeps their doors open a little bit. But yeah, so Not Real. I think we're fairly confident that is what it says. Moving on, we've got what I called Olympus. Now, I really winged it when I called this Olympus, but a lot of people are sticking to it. A lot of people like the idea that it says Olympus. I would find it very weird that ArenaNet just drag and drop a term like this into their game, and we don't really have any evidence that it's some kind of a big mountain there or whatever. But there you go. This seems to be what it matches with most. I have seen at least one person say the term Olympus before. That was their speculation, and I'm going to put it in there just for good measure because, frankly, I don't think it can be Olympus. I don't think that they can just throw that in. Maybe they can, and Olympus will be something similar but different in the Tyrian universe. Be an interesting thing for them to do, but I can't see it. Over here, let's have a look at Tyria. If we're working our way south, I guess we do have some rhyme to our reason here. We've got the Isle of Janthir. I never translated this before. Again, it was over water. The only interesting thing I could say about this, of course, this is marked on our maps in-game right now, is this is actually the Isle of Janthir. Now, I've always internally known them as the Isles of Janthir. Just the Isle of Janthir. It is not plural. I think it's worth being noted at the very least. Let's move over to the left now. I'm so sorry about this map that doesn't really show the landmasses too well. So here, oh, and for what it's worth, the original version of this map, with the Chantry of Secrets, never had the Isle of Janthir on it. If we have a look at that Shaman's version, he has retroactively added it, but this whole landmass was only added on the newest version of the texture. On the old Chantry of Secrets, as you can see, the Isle of Janthir isn't even there. And that's an exciting proposition, of course, because we know if it's got some ties to the Massart, people who managed to slip out of phase with reality. Is this version of the map the older version, when the Massart weren't even on Tyria? And everything, they just hidden absolutely everything, their cities and numerous other things. And now we're living in existence a more modern map. This one that we're currently looking at, that we're now translating, is newer, and it's reappeared. Curious. I love it. I love that there's that weirdness to do with the island. So let's go left. We've got Wetland. I called these Wetlands stupidly. This is Wetland. I don't really have anything further to say on it. We've got the Howling Peninsula here and Sunrise Crest written over the waters. People have mentioned that it sounds like Dawn, Sunrise Crest, the Howling Peninsula, these all sound like they could be associated with the same kind of civilization. Personally, I think Dawn's a little bit too far away, and I would like the idea that these are all different nations, perhaps warring with one another, all distinct in some way. But, you know, that is a good point, and they do seem to have some similarities in their nomenclature. Down here, the port itself was never marked as a place. So if we have a look, for example, this area down here where we can see that there are trade routes actually connecting to, we don't have the name of whatever city that in particular could have been. Indeed, I don't believe we see the name of a single city on this map beyond what we already knew, for example, Kining City, which is still more of a region label. Talking about these markers themselves here, a lot of people have said to me, hey, could these be ley lines? I don't believe they are ley lines. I'm sorry, guys. I think ley lines are a little bit more local than that. Of course, they would probably spread around the rest of Tyria. But I just believe these are trade routes. I think it would be really, like, plastic and lame if they revealed, oh, there was a ley line hub under Lion's Arch, and this is why everyone built a city over it, because it was magically inclined, and then did the exact same copy-paste story for every other area we've come to associate as a capital city in the game. Please, no, don't do that. I think these are trade routes. They're straight. They're to the point. They've been marked on there by the same ink as whoever marked down the text. And it's too coincidental that they're showing the exact places we could travel to through the fast travel system in Guild Wars 1. So we've got Arid here again. My opinions on this haven't changed. People seem to have settled that this is probably what it says. One thing I don't think I mentioned on the previous episode is if this is Arid, you think about where the equator would be in the game. Well, it seems in line. You've got the Desolation, Alona, Vabi. These were all very, very hot places. And now think about this same notion when we look at these places here. We've got the Forgotten Cliffs, or the Forsaken Climbs, or any other combination thereof that you like. I think more people are leaning towards Forsaken Cliffs than anything else. And of course, Forsaken Cliffs, that kind of makes sense if this is another desolate, dry area of the world. And Thunder Cove. You know, you might not really associate with thunder with heat that much, but you really should. You don't get thunderstorms in stupidly cold places. Could even suggest that we see a lot of thunderstorms, tropical storms perhaps. Maybe these are even lush, rainforested type areas. I'll never forget when I was younger and I went to Dubai, and we had this massive dry electrical storm that made no sounds of thunder across the coast of the desert. It was fantastic. And that just conjures lots of very exciting thoughts to my mind here on this map now. But to go back to the trade line discussions here, we've got Istan, the Isle of Istan down here, and the Battle Isles. Let me go to another map to be easier on your eyes here. We've got the Battle Isles was marked as one of these locations, and of course has an interesting story about how it was flooded, but then I believe was later mentioned by the devs that it has come back above the water level now. It's just that the people that were living there were devastated basically because of these massive fluctuations because of ores rising to the north. And then further away even than the Battle Isles, we have this place which is marked as a trade route, the Sunken Islands. This I never translated before. This is very exciting, even if you look at the geography of this area, with one of the islands kind of a bit of a damaged ring. What could this mean? Now, some people are going to be tempted very quickly to say it's maybe the same story as the Battle Isles, right? Maybe this is because of ore rising. But I'm sorry, I say to you, this is too far away. The distances we're looking at now are massive. And I don't think physics should work like that. I don't even think the story is exciting if you apply the same reason, the same brush, to why these are the Sunken Islands. I believe these may have their name because, more likely, of the influences of the deep sea dragon. You know, he's been leaving us alone in Tyria. Maybe, for all we know, he's been doing some serious damage over there. And I appreciate if you assume that these are the Sunken Islands and these have been previously destroyed by the deep sea dragon, that adds more credence to the idea that these trade routes are ley lines too, and, you know, magical hubs of activity, because the dragons attacked one because of all the magic there. But still, I definitely think these are the activities of the Elder Dragons. Exciting stuff. And it's somewhere we can trade with I really think that these areas are the highest candidates for new possible expansion locations within some, time frame of 10 years than anywhere else on this map. Let's keep going south then. Let's go to the bottom right down here. I never mentioned it before. We've got a dragon on the map. I mean, I'd seen the dragon, obviously. I just think it's a bit of artistic flair. I don't think that means the deep sea dragon is there on the map. I'm sorry, guys. I just can't see it. Perhaps I'm wrong. But, yes, we do have the dragon on the map that has been added since the previous version in the Chantry of Secrets. And we have these two islands here, which I put forward these words, Kim and Day, that I somehow, they seem to make a lot of sense in the text, but they didn't make any sense in any other context. Well, people very quickly realized this is the name of a dev. So a dev has actually inscribed their name on this map. And this is a really weird discussion to me. Up until this point, I was very excited by all of the labels on the map. They seemed like, ArenaNet could stick to these things, that we'd be seeing some permanence here, and that we were getting real information coming out. And now we find that a dev had just put their name on it. And this does a lot of things that really undermines my confidence. It makes me think that they were just winging it when they were adding the labels, that they never really expected anyone to translate them anyway. I mean, are they really going to honor this? Are we going to have 2 whole continents in the future called Day Kim just because a dev whimsically put their name there before? And if they honor it, then that's fine and that's cool. I appreciate they've named many places after many devs. You'd be surprised about the amount of references they have in their game to devs and friends of families of devs and so forth. And I suppose they're serviceable as the names of nations of some kind. It's just curious to me. And then this is further compounded, perhaps. Some of the hardest places, and the last ones we'll be looking at in this video, for anyone to have translated so far, were the ones in the bottom left. Now, again, this is not something I figured out. This is a post I've seen that I thoroughly believe in, and not enough people are talking about it. A lot of people have theorized that these 2 islands here are numbers of some kind, like one of them says 24, maybe one of them says 24, and the idea would be that because we've got Day Kim over on the right, these, again, could just be whimsically added, production codes or whatever, some internal numbers referring to ArenaNet, the group that worked on the content, whatever, right? They're just numbers. But better than that, someone has come up with Gwen and Yeah. And this, again, if you do look it up, if you type into Google Gwen, ArenaNet, you'll find that this is an environment artist. So this is another developer, another person who's actually inscribed their name. Day Kim, they've stolen all of the friggin' glory here. Gwen, no one's really talking about, but her name is definitely on this map. And that's what's been plastered over these 2 islands down here again. And so now it's like, geez, so what, they're going to do that in 2 instances? I can't see it. And I leave you guys on a bit of a bummer, I suppose, for the video, where I say to you, is this really going to be honored if there's just a dev names all over it? Is the geography even going to be honored if they have, not real written here and everything could be subject to change? Is this really the Holy Grail we all originally thought? Well, these things do certainly undermine it a little, don't they? In any case, I think it's still fun to speculate about. You can take so many races in Guild Wars 2 at the moment. You can say, the crate, where did they come from? Well, somewhere deep underwater, so maybe that's not very interesting. The Quaggan 2, the Karka even to an extent. The Kodan, though, right? Like, you can think, okay, well, where was the Kodan's homeland? Where did many of these races come from? What about these other original humans? The Asian kind of humans who are of a different race. Maybe they weren't planted here by the gods. Maybe they are different. Maybe it was only a long time later that they ended up meeting up, and maybe we'll be visiting them at some point. Who knows? And I think that it's at least worthy of speculation for that. It's just I would take the labels perhaps with a pinch of salt, and we'll see what the devs do. I would love another big reveal of maps, of more of this stuff far away, and so the devs can prove to us they have these grandiose ideas about where the franchise will go. The more they show us that they've got these grandiose ideas, the more people will want to speculate. Anyway, there you go, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time.